Hey everyone, I am Sudhir Kiran, a leader driving change in the field of education. Welcome to Leadership in Education, a series that shines a spotlight on the remarkable individuals who are shaping the future of education through their leadership. Hi Ram, welcome to my series Leadership in Education. I'm so glad to have you here today. We've worked together, and just to introduce you a little bit, you've had over a decade of experience in education. You've done so much in the private sector, in the public sector. You work with governments, you work with organizations, you work with teachers, students, educators, so many people. And I'm so inspired to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here. I'd really love to know, where did it all begin for you, right? So there is this thing I know about you, that you were in civil engineering. You took up civil engineering, and then you totally moved out of it and you went into education. You got into education, right? So that is inspiring me to sort of try to understand, where did it all begin for you, right? And more than this, I'm sure you can tell us what all you've done. You've done so much. If I go on, it'll take about half an hour just to mention all of that. So please go ahead, Ram. Tell us, where did it all begin?
Thank you so much, Sudhir. Thank you so much for inviting me for this beautiful series. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
So where it all began. I think the seed for this entire journey was actually done during my college time.
Right.
So it was an event where I was heading the university's NSS portfolio.
Very nice.
So
Okay.
I was heading the NSS group there. So as a part of that, we used to go to villages and we used to do a 7-day camp where we go and do multiple services there.
Right.
Like we used to conduct dentist camp, dental camp, eye clinics, eye camps, veterinary camps, and also we used to go to schools and do a lot of events for the students, right? Both in terms of academics as well as non-academics.
Got it.
So as I was heading the entire unit, I used to go around just to check if all the beneficiaries are utilizing our services. Through
Whether
those.
the impact is being created or
Yes.
not, whether they're happy about it or not.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So as a part of that, something strange that I observed, which actually bothered me, was I saw a lot of students, a lot of children, I would say, wearing the school uniform, but they were at their homes. They were actually bringing their goats, or they were actually going along with their parents to the field for the agriculture, right? That actually created a lot of curiosity within me. That's when I also was thinking through, why is this happening? So, and this is not just in one village.
Right.
I saw a same pattern, same trend across 4 villages.
Oh wow.
Where we went. That's when I realized, okay, I should deep dive into this because it was bothering me.
And try and understand where is the gap.
Yes. So on my personal capacity, I went to these villages post the NSS event.
Got it.
Spoke to multiple parents.
So you did this in your personal capacity.
Yeah. Wow. So I went to those again, repeat visit to those 4 villages, as I had already built a rapport with those people in their households. So I went back to them. I just spoke to them just on a personal capacity, checked with them what is stopping them from sending their children to the schools, right? Why are they not sending them? Right? What I realized is they were actually blaming the school, basically the teachers and the HM. They were mentioning that if we send our children to the school, they are simply sitting there. Not much is happening because there's only one teacher for multiple classrooms, for multiple grades. So nothing
That's
much
a
is
big
happening.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So what will I do? So instead, let my child be here with me.
Rather than being in the school,
Yes.
they can earn something for the family.
Yeah. So I was also curious to know, what do the teacher and the HM think about the same scenario. So I also went to them. Again, I went to those 4 schools. I spoke to the teacher and the HMs just to understand what is their perspective, their view on this. So I saw they were actually blaming the parents regarding this. They were saying that it's not about what actually they are saying is not the case. They basically wanted extra income. They are not interested to send their children to the school because they can earn extra income if they involve them in their daily activities.
Totally. Yeah.
Right? So what I really saw was a blame game that was happening between the two of them, between the parents as well as the educators.
Right.
Right? And the actual people who are suffering there in this blame game situation is the children.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So that actually bothered me a lot. And that is when I wanted to do something for that. And I'm a strong believer of saying that if you want to change the system, you need to be in the system.
Understood.
Right? Whatever you do outside the system, it's not going to change even a minute.
Yeah. You have to be in the system to kind of change. Totally understand. Yeah.
That is when I explored various opportunities where I can work in the system, and I came across the Teach for India Fellowship.
Got it.
So that's when all this educational journey began.
Very nice.
So
great.
I did this.
And that was a shift from your civil engineering life to.
Yeah, it was a hard shift for me.
I mean, and a great shift, right? You've contributed so much in education. I think you've done really well. But that is an inspiring thing. And I'm so glad because when I've discussed with you on multiple occasions, I think you brought me this idea of, parents' house visits where we can go and engage with them. And I want to talk to you about that a little more in this episode. But I think you've done a fantastic job. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being in the education field.
Thank you, Cyril.
So let's talk a little bit about your Teach for India fellowship. What were some of the highlights of that? Where did you teach? Where were you? What were you doing? What did you observe? We'd like to know a bit more about that because I've spoken to you a lot and I'd like our viewers to watch and understand from you.
Sure. So as I told, my entire journey in terms of education as well as leadership began during the Teach for India Fellowship.
Correct.
So it was an interesting shift for me because I chose to do the fellowship in Gujarat, Ahmedabad,
Right.
without even knowing Hindi or Gujarati.
Wow.
So it's a bold step.
You took that plunge.
Yeah, I took that just to explore my own self.
Fantastic.
I still remember the first day where it took literally like half an hour for me to explain stand up and sit down
Oh,
to my
wow.
children because they didn't know a bit of English and I didn't know a bit of Hindi. So that's how it was.
Wow.
So starting from there to now conversing with government officials in Hindi, that's the shift that has happened to me personally.
Totally.
Right, during that journey.
Right.
So I taught grade 2 and 3. Again, a bunch of, what to say, there are a lot of adjectives I can use to describe them.
Please go for it.
Yeah, they are a bunch of cute,
Yeah.
mischievous,
Naughty.
naughty, everything.
Hard to work with.
I would differ.
Sure. Okay.
But beautiful human beings. They
Yeah.
are. Right?
Were they sort of socio-economically disadvantaged?
Yes. So I taught in a community called Amrewadi in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. So it's a low-income private school.
Sure.
Where the fees was pretty much as 300 per month.
Wow.
So that was the fee of the school. And most of the people there are migrants, right? In my classroom, only 20% of them were Gujaratis.
Okay.
Right? Remaining were from different parts of the country.
Wow.
Yeah, some are from Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, especially Pondicherry.
Got it.
Majority of them were from UP, some from Maharashtra, some from Rajasthan.
Right.
These are the major locations from where the children come from.
Yeah.
So,
what was your experience at there?
yes. So it was a beautiful experience to say because that, through the journey, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's what I value.
Yeah.
It's not just, I wouldn't say it's just a teaching journey.
Right.
It's also a leadership journey for me.
Yeah.
Because that is the place where I strongly believed in the concept of teaching. Teaching is leadership, right? You will also see, now a lot of people are realizing that a lot of our presidents of our country were teachers, right? If you find the list of presidents, you will see majority of them were teachers.
Right.
The second professions from where the presidents came were lawyers.
Right.
Right. So you will see that trend, right? Even during the recent president elections,
Yes.
both the candidates were teachers.
Right.
Right. So I strongly started to believe in that concept of teaching as leadership was through the Teach for India Fellowship journey.
Right.
Yeah. So one most memorable thing that happened during the entire journey was how I actually integrated my passion towards a performing art called mime
Right.
along with my students,
Right.
right? Where I did something very interesting, which is first of its kind street mime
Very
with live
nice.
instrument
Very nice.
for you with the help of third grade students.
Wow.
So that was never happened before. That's what from my knowledge.
Very nice.
So it's the first of its kind which I tried. Um, that was received really well. We did that mime in front of around 200 people
Right.
from the community,
Right.
where we
Must
did,
have been such a amazing performance.
yeah, we did it in the road. So it's also a part of a journey where it's not just a mime,
Right.
it's a solution that the students came up with towards eradicating a problem that they found in the community,
Oh wow. Okay.
right? So they found cleanliness being one of a huge challenge
Yeah.
in the community.
Yeah.
So they wanted to find a solution for it.
Right.
That's when they came up with an idea of creating awareness with the community,
Beautiful.
right? And as I had introduced them to the concept of mime, they came up with the idea of why not do a mime
Yeah.
for the community people,
Wow.
right? Creating awareness on cleanliness.
Great.
So-
Great. I think performance arts can help in so many ways to address challenges in the society, to their own communities, to a larger set of communities. I think that's great. That's lovely to
Definitely.
And you were one of them that, kind
Yes.
of
So
started this at Teach for India.
no, I don't think I started this. So
Right.
I mean, and this is not something in the education journey. I don't think this is something that anyone even started, because it's
Right.
like integration of performing arts, integration of such like forms in teaching has been there for like
Absolutely.
decades.
But mime and social.
So maybe in the Teach for India ecosystem, I might be the first
Got
person
it.
to do. No,
Got
I
it.
don't. Actually, I'm not the first person.
Got it.
There was someone who in Chennai, like, see, because there were
One of the few.
yeah, one of the few. I would say.
Great. Sure. Very
Yeah,
nice.
will be cut, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think I am the first person. So I was one of the few people
Got
who tried it.
Got it.
I personally know someone from Chennai also who worked on mime with their children. So yeah, but yeah, that's one memorable journey for me.
Got it. Got it.
And of course, like coincidentally, this was the year when my students finished their 10th grade.
Oh wow.
So-
So nice.
Yeah, it was very nice of them to call me
Very
and
nice.
tell me that they call me Bhaiya. So
Right.
it's like, Bhaiya, we got this much score thanks to you. So they were very grateful. They were thanking me for their achievements.
So
It
nice.
was so
So nice.
nice of them.
So let's talk a little bit about teacher training in affordable private schools or teacher training in general. What are your views? I think you've been a teacher yourself. You've trained multiple teachers. You've played roles in different capacities, training teachers at different points in your life. You've helped our school with a bunch of things, and we're very thankful for that. So I'd like to know a bit about why do you think teacher training is important? Why do you think upskilling is important? And what are these areas where schools have to focus on, in terms of empowering teachers to become better teachers, have more connection with their students, connection with their family members, maybe do house visits if possible. I believe that relationship is very important because a parent trusts a teacher on multiple levels, and we trust as a school a teacher on multiple levels in the classroom. So I'd like to know a little bit about how you look at teacher training, teacher empowerment
Okay.
in the system.
So I generally restrict myself from using the word teacher training,
Right.
because what happens is when we start using the word teacher training, it will quickly give a feeling that we are better than teachers.
Sure.
We are here to train the teachers.
Sure.
But that's not the case.
Very understandable.
I personally feel that every teacher, irrespective of their experiences, they have something to add value to,
Got it.
right? When they are in the classroom, right? Because end of the day, every human being, every individual's journey is different,
Right.
right? And of course, all the children can learn from any adult,
Absolutely.
right? Definitely, every teacher has some value to add in their classroom, right? But where the gap is in terms of there are certain roles and responsibilities that they have, right? there are certain outcomes, right? Do all the teachers currently have the skills, knowledge, and the mindset to achieve these outcomes? That's not the case.
Sure.
That is where I think an intervention is required.
Required. Got it.
Right? We can call the intervention anything, right?
Right. It can be named in different.
It can be named anyway, but yes, the intervention is required, right? In order to bridge the gap in terms of knowledge, skills, and mindset to reach the desired outcome.
Right.
Every teacher is
fall at a certain level
for
and
the students.
Yeah.
Outcome is technically for the students, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah. So how should we go about these initiatives?
Yeah. What do you
or
think?
Interventions?
Oh, yeah.
So if you see, I would categorize that into 3 buckets, right? In terms of the kind of teachers with whom we work with, right? First would be purely with government schools.
Sure.
Right? Where the setup is completely different, right? The kind of teachers whom you will interact with are completely different, right? And then there is private school, which I will bifurcate into 2 segments.
Right.
One is budget private school or affordable private schools.
Sure.
Right? And the second is other private schools.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it high income, but it's other private schools, which don't come under the category of affordable or budget private schools.
Sure.
Because the kind of teachers who teach in each of these section of schools are completely different.
Totally.
Right? The only commonality across all these 3 sections is all of them will be having BL.
Right.
Right? Because that's a mandate from the country.
Right.
All of them will be having BL. But the kind of socio-economic background that they come from, the kind of exposure that they would have got, and the kind of experience they would have attained would be completely different.
Very different.
Right?
Agreed.
You would see a lot of high-skilled teachers in the government setup, right? Of course, at times you might see the will of them might be low, but in government you would find the most high-skilled teachers.
Yeah.
Right? The same teacher, if they are in 6th grade, if they're teaching 6th grade, right, you might see their performance with the students may not be that great.
Right.
But the same teacher, if they are asked to teach grade 10, right, they know the impact of the board exam.
Wow.
And they would ensure that same teacher would bring in 100% results.
Yeah.
Right? And you will also see a bigger chunk of teachers from the government school were in the private school segment before. So you will also see that as something. So
I'd love to know why are these government teachers so highly skilled? Because that is something that I feel I'd want to look into, and how has it evolved over a period of time? Maybe you could could let me know about that once you finish.
Sure. That's one. And second comes to the private school, which is not the other category private schools, right? Where again you will see a lot of high will teachers there, right? Skills might still be a bit lower, but everyone
willingness is
really high.
Right. Okay.
Right. And you would see they would do anything to like get a name in that particular school, right? To be a permanent teacher, right? They would do anything. Right? There will be a lot of high willingness, right? And then comes the budget private school or affordable private school section, where you would actually find most of the teachers from a moderate or a lower socio-economic background, right? Similar to the students that those schools cater to, right? And you will also find a trend where most of them, even though they would have done B.Ed, their skill as well as will might be at a moderate section. Of course, some people might be high on will, but the skill aspect, again, it's not, I'm not just telling about 1 or 2 schools, but across multiple schools where I have worked with, I have seen this as a trend.
And this is across the country, I believe. It's not just
the country.
Like a certain geographic location.
Yeah, it's across the country, because if you look at the affordable private school sector
itself,
right, there are around 4 lakh schools across the country.
Right? I can imagine.
So, and all of these schools cater to children from like lower socio-economic status,
right?
Which is very similar to that of the government school.
Correct.
Right. So, and most of the schools are very small. The numbers are there are out of 4 lakh schools, easily 2 lakh schools will have the strength lesser than 150, 100. Right? That's the kind of schools they are.
Right.
Right? So because of the salaries, because of the exposure, all those things, the teachers will, there will be a gap in terms of skill as well as will
Agreed.
in those schools.
Agreed. That's
So-
a nice framework to put it in.
Yeah. So,
Very
so
interesting.
now in terms of capacity building for all the 3 sections, we need to approach it in a different way.
Right.
Right? For government schools, as they're highly skilled, I think the clear need is interventions for motivation. Right? Or maybe in terms of skill, as the current generation or current world is moving towards digital world, they definitely require digital
The
interventions.
upskilling
In terms of digital interventions.
Got it.
Maybe at times in terms of communication, right? Because you also look at most of the government schools on the earlier era used to be local language schools.
Correct.
Right? Now, majority of them have shifted to English medium.
English medium, right.
But the teachers
Still remain teaching in a local language. Yeah.
No, than that those teachers who are currently there in English medium schools, majority of them were recruited for local language medium schools.
Right.
Just because the medium of the school
Changed,
shifted, the recruitment didn't happen.
Understood.
Right? So the same teachers continued to teach in those schools. So that's why the language wise there might be a challenge, but that's why when outside people see that, they'll just judge the teachers based on their language, right? And they'll pass remarks saying the government schools are terrible, all those things, but that's not the case.
I understand.
Right? You
They
actually
are
see
good,
they are really good.
very good,
They are really good,
and
highly skilled.
highly skilled, and I'm sure they're free for children to be,
Yeah, so that's what. So when I say highly skilled, the skill is in terms of all the aspects that is required for a teacher, right? It's not just in terms of one certain bucket or two. Like it's like not like that. So that's why the intervention that is required, maybe in terms of upskilling, in terms of language, or in terms of digital competencies. Apart from that, the upskilling that is majorly required or intervention that is required would be in the motivation side.
Got it.
For the government segment.
Understood.
Whereas if you come to the third segment, which is the other private school category segment, the kind of interventions you would require would be in terms of how should you, should be in terms of aligning with what's the school's focus, because every school will have a certain focus area.
Right.
Currently, most of the schools would want to focus on leadership.
Right.
Want to focus on social emotional skills.
Right.
SEL. Right. Would want to focus on certain kind of exposure. Right. So then all these interventions that we do with those segment, which is the other private school segment, would be aligning to what the school's need is.
Got it.
Right. So we can't just go with one formula and cater to all these schools.
Agreed.
Right. But that's where if you wanted to focus on like generic pedagogy, culture, classroom culture, content aspect, then the middle segment, which is the affordable private school or the budget private school segment, is the place where there is a huge need for such intervention.
Got it.
In terms of pedagogy, content, culture,
all of it,
overall skill aspect, as well as in terms of motivation.
Got it.
Because we need to intervene in that segment where, in spite of getting lesser salary, how can you still be motivated?
Correct. And that is a big challenge.
In spite of you coming from a very similar economic background of your children, how can you still create the exposure and experience for the children?
True.
Right? Which you envision for their future.
Got it.
How can you still create that? Right? Those are the kind of interventions that is required for affordable private school and budget private schools.
Sector. Got it.
That is where a mix of pedagogy, culture, content, everything comes to place. So, for your question on how teachers in the government are actually skilled.
Yeah.
So, if you see the recent times, or if you see the age group from where the age bracket of teachers in the government school, most of them would be easily having 15 plus years of experiences. Right. So most of them were recruited during the earlier times.
Right. When they were younger, you're saying, or
when we were younger.
when we were younger, sure.
So, so if you see during those times, there are two aspects to it. Okay, one is where do most of the government teachers come from?
Correct.
Okay, they actually interestingly, most of them come from the other private school sections. Most of the teachers in private school during earlier years used to aspire to work in government schools, right? I personally know, I studied in a private school, right? Out of my 12 plus 2 years, 14 years in my school journey, I know easily I can count and say 8 to 9 teachers who have left our school and went and joined government schools.
Government schools.
Who are currently in service with the government.
Right.
Right. You'll see a lot of private school teachers during the earlier times were passionate to join the government. Right, due to multiple perks.
Right.
It could be for perks, it could be for the kind of job, it could be for the passion, it could be for the, like, what to say?
Self-fulfillment.
Yeah, fulfillment.
And I also think it could be also about, government jobs were a lot more secure.
Yes.
Right? Because you would get first well paid and then you would get good pensions. Your job is secure. Correct. I think, there are these factors, right?
Correct. Right. So you will see, and the recruitment process were also very strong then, right? So what happened is the top bunch, okay, were the ones who were even eligible, who are also the one who got to join the government.
Join the government schools, right?
They are the people who are even now serving the students, right? Okay. So that is one reason. And secondly, if you see the actual, as I also mentioned, like the actual gap in the teachers who are in the government is not in terms of teaching, their teaching methodology, teaching style.
Yeah, of course
not. In terms of
absolutely, I totally
it's
agree.
Purely for the current generation in terms of language, right? That too, especially with the English language, because most of them were recruited to be a local language teacher.
Got it.
Right? In a local language medium school.
Right.
Right? But over the years, due to preference, due to the need, schools got shifted to English medium. Right? But there were huge bunch of human resources. Right? Which can't be laid off.
Totally.
Right? We will have to, and not just like, they're all huge bunch of highly skilled human resources. Right? Just because of this constraint of language, should we lay them off? No.
Is that a question?
Right?
Yeah, sure.
That's why the government chose to continue with them. Right? That's where the gap started to begin. Yes. You would know even our school, Ashok was a government aided school before.
Correct.
Right?
For about 40 years.
The kind of teachers, the kind of education that those teachers used to provide, right, was amazing. You would be knowing that.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of experience and the exposure the teachers during those time used to have. Right?
Yeah.
The kind of training program.
And they were a lot more focused on their approach.
Yes.
They put a lot of effort in learning and distributing that knowledge.
And they used to also have a lot of humanistic approach, I would
Absolutely.
say. Right? Absolutely. They were all focused on the children. This is what I want.
For these children.
Yes. If this is what I wanted for these children, I will figure out whatever it is
to make that happen, right? Do you think that's the same right now in government schools?
I still think that's the same.
Okay, great.
Right? Of course, that's the same. Of course,
other than the language aspect?
No, that's all. In terms of how they are, I think that's where I addressed, right? Like, maybe at the current era, there is slightly a lack in terms of motivation, right? Which might project a different view.
Okay.
But I think internally they all would have had that mindset and even now have that mindset.
Got it.
I have interacted with amazing teachers in government. So one of my most favorite teacher, who is someone who has not taught me, right? Her name is Rubin Catherine Teresa. She is a teacher from a government school in Tamil Nadu, right?
Wow.
She teaches Tirchangodu Girls High School. Right? The kind of the way in which she teaches, right? Amazing.
I know.
Right?
It can be so inspiring.
So I actually got to know about her by seeing a YouTube video.
Wow.
Right? Where someone was telling about her, right? That's when I realized she actually has her own YouTube channel where she records the way she teaches maths, especially 9th and 10th grade maths, right, in a more practical way, right?
Wow.
And she records that because she realizes that her students are highly benefited through that approach.
Absolutely.
Right?
And she's figured a way to reach them.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
So she wanted to magnify her impact
Beautiful.
by recording her methodology and putting it out in YouTube.
Great.
So that multiple people
can benefit from it.
Benefit from that.
Wow.
Right?
We need more such.
Yeah. So
That's a wonderful
she is my most favorite teacher. I found a way when I reached out to her through some random research. I found her contact. I reached out to her, and I also got a chance to go and meet her when she came to Chennai once. So if you see, she's from government school.
Right.
She's a government school teacher.
Got it.
Right. That's the kind of teacher who are there in government. They are very passionate.
Correct.
Right. Because
That is the word. Yeah.
During those times, that was one of the key criteria.
Yeah.
For someone to even choose the government.
Sure.
But currently, if you see, that's not the case.
Sure.
You will see such kind of people more in the private school segment.
Correct. Right? They are moving to
yes.
private. Yeah.
Because currently, if you see in terms of pay, in terms of benefits, all those things, private schools, each private school
probably are offering more than
not just in terms of pay, just pay, also in terms of other benefits.
Right.
Most of the private schools are like a corporate company nowadays.
Right, exactly. Right? Yeah.
So the kind of, I'm saying in a positive way.
Sure.
Right? They don't look at it as a school. They look at it as an institution. They look at it as a company. Right? There are schools who are competing with colleges.
Right.
There are schools who are competing with companies.
Right.
That's kind of culture that current generation private schools have built. Right? Which is really amazing. Right? It's the need of the hour, you'd say. Right? So that's the kind of brand that they have built. That's the kind of focus. So now if you see the kind of teachers who were in the government schools, like who used to aspire to go to government schools, are now mostly in the private school segment.
Yeah. So they've moved.
Right? Yeah. So that's why I think as the people who are with more experience are still there in the government, I feel that could be the reason behind how there is high skilled teachers who are in the government school segment.
Right. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the national education policy. I'd like to know what it is. We'd like to know a little bit about where it originated from, what it is, and you worked in the implementation of it in Karnataka. So would love to know a bit about your experience in the whole national education policy, and why our state is not ready to accept it. Would love to know if you have any views on that as well.
National education policies are not a new thing for our country, right? It's the third education policy for our country, right? There has been 2 education policies prior to this. So the third policy, of course, 2020 it's when it got released. If you ask me personally, if you see, there are a lot of benefits in implementing this national education policy, because there's a lot of freedom for the children to choose what they want. There's a lot of autonomy for the beneficiaries here in the national education policy, right? That's a huge key aspect. That's a huge advantage, especially for the kind of children the current generation people are grooming into, right? So definitely, according to me, it's a huge advantage.
Okay.
If you ask how it will impact the kind of schools that are there out there
that exist. We'd like to know that.
One, if you see, of course, government and private school, the NEP addresses a lot of things in general in terms of academics, in terms of accreditation, in terms of function is everything, mostly for government schools. Right. Again, NEP, see, as a policy, any policies, right? It's all. Any policy is a recommendatory document, I would say.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
it's a directive document,
Okay.
right? It's not an act,
Right.
right? If it's an act, it is supposed to be established,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Implemented,
Implemented,
right?
yeah.
But if it's a policy, it's a direct.
You can choose not to.
Yes, it's a directive or recommendative
Right. Framework.
document. Yeah,
Got
it's
it.
a framework, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. So there are aspects where they are mandating that everyone need to make that shift. For example, the structure, right? The entire academic structure on its own, where from the 10+2 model, they are now moving into 5+3+3+4 model.
Sure.
Right? That's one. Right? But apart from that, if you see, there's a lot more that they have recommended, which are really good to have even for private schools. Right? Because as government, they won't be able to implement those things, those kind of initiatives or interventions in private schools. They don't have the authority to have any interventions done in private schools.
Got it.
Right? Government can only suggest or recommend private school to carry up with certain interventions or initiatives.
Got it.
For example, vocational education. And I work closely on vocational education in Karnataka.
Sure.
Right? So government recommends that vocational education needs to be taken very seriously. Right? Vocation is not just in terms of not just in terms of job requirement, right? But it also in terms of what kind of skills that is aligned to that particular age group.
Okay.
Right? They call that as vocational. Right? They also, government is, NEP is also recommending vocational education to be started even from an early age, from grade 6, where they wanted to initiate something called early vocational education.
Okay.
Right? Where can we give exposure to vocational education for the students right from an early age.
Got it.
Right? I worked in government of Karnataka to implement some of these aspects.
Interesting.
Both for the early education piece as well as with the key vocational education piece for the grades 9th to 12th. Right?
Important. That's very important.
So we, as any school, right, if you want to call yourself as community school, you should not work in silos.
Correct.
Right? You need to involve, you need to interact with neighborhood schools in the same community.
Yes.
You need to involve them. You need to have a collaborative approach with multiple schools around you, right? And should not look at them as
I don't think, like any school should be doing that.
Totally. Any school should be. It's all a collaborative approach.
Absolutely.
According to me. I think that's the only way in which the entire affordable private school or budget private school sector can grow.
Got it.
The only way is to grow collectively.
Got it.
Every children has the potential to be leaders.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
They have inherent leadership skills. It's just how they show it, how they use it in the right way, how they showcases it. That's what matters. Sometimes they don't channelize it in the right way. Right? So leadership is also something that I wanted.
Got it.
To be a part of
one of the things
school.
that child learns.
Yes. And what happens is nowadays in schools, there's a lot of focus, like keeping in mind disciplinary action. There's a lot of structures and mechanisms and process that are there in school.
Got it.
Right?
They're very strict. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Types. Okay.
I personally feel for children, especially for that age group, it is necessary for them to just be mischievous.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Just to learn how to engage and enhance their childhood.
Sure.
Right? I don't want the child to be in their 20s and 30s and 40s and think, oh, I miss doing this in their childhood.
Got it.
Right? I wanted every children to learn certain aspects of being mischievous in school.
Sure.
Because that will definitely, of course, create a lot of ruckus for the classroom.
Yeah, it's going to be a pain for all teachers.
But a lot of memories for their own self.
Okay.
For their futures.
Got it.
So,
fantastic. Yeah, thank you. So Ram, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. You've spoken to us about a lot of things under the banner of education. I'm sure that our viewers will enjoy this episode and probably reach out to you if required. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, Sudhir, for hosting me here. The conversation was really amazing. And this entire initiative, I think it's really beautiful, because I think you're trying to create a community
Right.
where like-minded educators can
Yeah.
come together, focusing on the same cause,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I think this initiative is really beautiful.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Thank you.
All the best for this. And I also wanted to just tell the people who are viewing that he is doing a great job leading Aayog Shishu Vihara, a school in Basungudi. So any support that you would be able to come and chip in is appreciated. So please do that, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much for doing that, Ram. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Stay tuned to listen and watch more such wonderful conversations on leadership in education.
Hey everyone, I am Sudhir Kiran, a leader driving change in the field of education. Welcome to Leadership in Education, a series that shines a spotlight on the remarkable individuals who are shaping the future of education through their leadership.